Please try these next two problems and pause the slideshow so you can complete those. Okay, coming back, I'm going to work it within these parentheses here first. Negative 3 minus 3 means I'm moving to the left 3, so that's going to be negative 6. A negative times a negative is going to be a positive, and 6 times 7 is 42. Looking here, I have my negative 1 times, but I need to do this parentheses first. 2 minus 2, I'll do that first, working left to right. So 2 minus 2 is 0, and 0 minus 3. So now I have negative 1. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. I have a negative times a negative, which means my solution will be positive, and 1 times 3, the identity property of multiplication, tells us that anything times 1 will be itself. Therefore, the solution is 3. Here are two more problems for you to try. Please pause the slideshow and complete them. Okay, coming back, let's take a look here. I'm going to start within my parentheses before I add on here anything else. So I'll do 7 minus 1. Then my next step is I'll take away the 8. So 7 minus 1 is 6. And you may at this point be comfortable enough doing that next step just in your head or with your calculator. But 7 minus 1 is 6. Take away 8 more would be a total of negative 2. Negative 2 plus negative 2. Well, if I owe you $2 and I owe you 2 more dollars, I owe you a grand total of $4. So negative 4. And looking at this next one down here, I'm going to do this first, this parenthesis. So negative 2 plus 4 is 2 minus negative 2. And I can think about this kind of as my big plus sign there. So 2 plus 2 is 4. We'll do the first one together here before you try this on your own. So let's take a look here at this top one. And if I'm working on this problem, one thing that I want to think about is I'd really need to do the top, then the bottom, then I'm going to do the division sign here in the middle. This is the division sign. It's a fraction bar, most commonly kind of referred to, but it does mean division. So we'll work on the top first. I need to do this division first before I'm going to add. So on the top, let's kind of work next to it here. I'm going to have 3 plus a positive divided by a negative. 8 divided by negative 8, or 8 over negative 8. Positive over negative, I know it's going to be negative. 8 over 8 is 1. So I have that plus a negative 1 all over negative 8. Forgot a parenthesis there. And that's going to equal 3 plus negative 1 is going to be 2 over negative 8. I can simplify or reduce this to 1 over negative 4. The negative sign really doesn't matter if it's on top. So if I wanted to write negative 1 over 4 would be the same thing as just negative 1 over 4, which is the same thing as 1 over negative 4. 3 different ways, kind of seeing that pattern of the negative sign. As long as there's only one, it's still going to be the same value. So my solution to that one was negative 1/4. Let's take a look here at this one. I'm going to work on the top. Negative times a negative is a positive 8. 2 times 4 is 8, divided by negative 4. Positive over a negative will tell me my solution is going to be negative, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. One other thing that I just noticed is jumping out at me is when I'm multiplying like this, and I've got the same value in the numerator and denominator, it simplifies to 1. So that really just becomes a giant 1, and it cancels. So I have negative 2 times 1, or just negative 2. Please pause the slideshow and complete these two problems. Okay, coming back, I'm going to be working in the parentheses here first as my first step. then I'll be multiplying and dividing from left to right. So negative 6 minus, well, 9 minus 2 is 7. It's 3 times negative 6. So again, be one of those opportunities where you might just notice, hey, I could do this right now while I'm working on my first step. Negative 6 minus 7, well, positive times negative is going to be a negative 18. And now I'm going to add and subtract from left to right. So negative 6 minus 7 is negative 13. So I'm going to the left 7 plus a negative 18 means I'm getting more negative. So my final answer is negative 31. And I'm looking at this next problem here. I am going to work in the parentheses first, then multiply by the negative 2. So negative 8 plus 3 is negative 5 minus 7 times negative 2. Negative 5 negative 5 minus 7 is going to be negative 12 times negative 2. I have a negative times a negative, which will be a positive 24. A few more problems for you to work on. Please pause the slideshow and complete them. Alright, joining you again. Let's take a look here. I'm going to be working in this parenthesis first, and then I'll be multiplying after I do what's in both parentheses. So negative 3 plus 7 will give me 4. And I have the negative 8 minus 2. So I have 4 minus 3 is 1. Negative 8 minus 2 is negative 10. Multiplication identity property, anything times 1 is itself, therefore this is negative 10. Looking at the next one, negative 1 to the right, or negative 3 to the right 1 means I have a negative 2 times a negative 2. Negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 2 is 4. A few more problems for you to practice. In fact, we only have just 2 more problems after that, so go ahead and pause the slideshow and we'll just do the next 4 problems right in a row. Okay, joining you again. Let's take a look here. I have this opposite sign out front. I'll worry about that kind of last. So I'll do this. 2 plus 6 plus 2, is 8. And I have that times a negative 4. So the opposite of 8 times a negative 4, well, if I just read that, the opposite of 8 really makes me think of negative 8 times a negative 4. I have a negative times a negative, which is going to be a positive 32. There's several ways I could think about this. I can think of it really as that I need to do all of this, take the opposite of it, which could be done. 6 plus 2 is 8. Positive times a negative is negative 32. What's the opposite of negative 32? It's 32. I can think of it the way that we just did it here, where I just kind of worked it in. Or I can really think of it as a negative 1 times. And I just have this negative 1 times that I'm going to do kind of in my last step as I'm working across. Couple of different ways to approach this type of problem. So looking here, I might do it that way. I think of it as a negative 1 times 6 plus 7 minus 6. So if I'm doing that, then I'll just do what's in the parentheses first. 6 plus 7 is 13, and 13 take away 6 is going to be 7 again. And negative 1 times a positive 7 will be a negative 7. And the last 2 problems, hopefully you've already worked ahead, otherwise pause now. But let's do the multiplication here first. Excuse me, let me clean that up there. So I have 6 times negative 3 is a negative 18. And I still have 4 plus. So 4 plus negative 18. Plus tells me to go to the right, but this minus sign tells me to go to the left. So 4 to the left 18 is a negative 14. And 6 minus 20 divided by 5. I'm going to do the division first. Common mistake would be to do 6 minus 20, just like here, it'd be 4 plus 6. So if I'm doing 20 divided by 5, 20 divided by 5 is 4, and 6 minus 4 is 2. At this time, I ask that you please continue watching any videos in this module that you feel will help solidify this information for you, and make sure that you do your assignment and complete your assignment problems and do your concept quiz. Thank you very much for today's lesson.